All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?
Hello, and welcome to Where Am I to Go podcast. Today, before we start the show, I would like to bring up some business things that have kind of been on my mind so that you can know where to get more Where Am I to Go. First off, I'd like to talk about the Facebook page at Where Am I to Go podcast. It's on Facebook, and we've been posting some wonderful pictures of some of the places that we've been and some of the adventures that we've had. Not everything that we go and do is made into a podcast. And so we take pictures at different places and post those pictures so that you guys can enjoy some of the different places we've been. Also, I really am interested in listener feedback. I have an email address at whereamiitogopodcast@gmail.com. Again, that is whereamiitogopodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear some of the listeners' comments and some of their ideas of places that might be interesting to visit and go and do. Today we're in Long Beach, Washington, and we are with Jim at the International Kite Museum.
Well, the World Kite Museum.
The World Kite Museum. I was close. Anyway, Long Beach, I think, is well known throughout the kite world for kiting.
Correct.
And I'm not really sure why that is. Is it because of consistent winds, or is it just because they sell more kites here? Or?
It is circumstance. If you go back about 40 years, the first kite festival was held in about 1980. And it was just a bunch of people who got together who thought they should have an enjoyable time on the beach flying kites. Okay?
Right.
And then that mushroomed into the Washington State International Kite Festival. And year over year over year, more people attended.
Okay.
At the same time, Kay Busing and her husband Jim thought collecting kites and displaying them in a museum would be a fun thing.
Okay.
And so they proposed to build a museum, and this is what we ended up with. And the board, in about it was about 2005, had spent about 3 years raising money, and I can show you the fundraising for that.
Okay.
All of these companies and people were donors that made this building happen.
Oh, wow.
In August of 2005, we bought this 10,000 square foot facility on a little over an acre of land. We own it scot-free. We don't have any debt on it.
How cool is that?
And it's we turned it into the World Kite Museum.
Cool.
And all of our kites are either in storage or displayed.
Okay.
We display all the posters, all the 40-year history of the Kite Festival. We have all the posters in our theater room. Our theater room also has a high-definition, very large monitor, and we show digital images and film of kite festivals of the past and of the present. Kite festivals are held all over the world. They're held on the East Coast, they're held on the West Coast, but very few museums exist, and we're the only kite museum in North America.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Yes, it's quite exciting, and it was really fascinating, and we'll go upstairs shortly, but it represents the cultural aspect of the world.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a little unusual. When you think of kites, you often don't think that there's kites in Afghanistan, and there's kites in China and Japan, all over Asia. There was kites used by the U.S. military, both in the Civil War, World War I, and World War II. Kites are used for all sorts of interesting competitions. And that happens all over the world, and so our whole goal is to represent that.
And it's right here
Yes.
in Long Beach.
In Long Beach. And
Now, just out of curiosity, it says that Long Beach is the longest beach in the world?
yes, that's a very powerful marketing term.
Okay, and how is it really the longest beach, or what determines that?
If I've never been to Australia, we clearly have the largest beach.
Okay, I see how this works.
For us, here it is a very long beach.
Okay.
And it used to be known as the North Beach because it was north of the mouth of the Columbia River.
Right.
So it was the beach north of the mouth. Before that, it was called the Weather Beach because this was where all the weather hit.
Okay.
And all the ships wrecked. There was from here to the Straits of Juan de Fuca, the entrance up to Puget Sound, almost to Canada. There have been several thousand ships wrecked along this area.
Okay.
And so part of that is because it is a terrifically windy area, and the wind is either out of the northwest or the southwest. And so that means the wind is always blowing on shore,
Okay.
which turns out to be a happy coincidence with kite flyers.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, is it more windy, let's say, here in this particular area than what it would be on the Oregon coast?
It's very similar because we get the weather first. So the
Okay.
storms that come out of Alaska or the Pacific High, which is a high pressure ridge that develops off Washington State and British Columbia, we essentially have nothing between us and Japan. And
Okay.
so we get that air, that clear air first, which is actually a happy coincidence because that means you can fly kites with one exception.
What's that?
It's either not blowing hard enough or it's blowing too hard.
Okay.
So the exceptions are there are days in the summer when it'll be beautiful and the wind is so gentle as to not even move a feather flying on the ground, or a piece of straw or a piece of grass. And when the wind gets under, say, 8-9 miles an hour, sometimes some of the heavier kites don't fly very well, or they have to be up higher to catch clear air. And then once the wind gets over about, say, 15 miles an hour, it's almost too strong for some kites. Definitely if it's over 20 miles an hour.
Okay.
A wind of 20 miles an hour will pick up the sand and move it.
Okay.
And I've seen both types of wind. Great wind, no wind, and too much wind during Kite Festival.
Wow.
And sometimes it's a time of day. Beautiful wind in the morning, too much in the afternoon. Sometimes it's really quiet. It stays calm all day long. Then the next day, perfect wind. So it's circumstantial. We have steady winds, but they vary by the time of day.
Okay, well, when you first walk into this museum,
Right.
you come on into this.
You come in. Actually, you came in the back door.
Oh, I came in the back door. Okay. We come into
A store.
a store.
Yes. Are you on?
I am.
So when you first come into the museum, you see things for sale because all museums survive by donations, admissions, sales. So this is a modest-sized kite store. You can buy cold weather gear when it's cold outside and you want to, be warm.
Right.
You can buy different types of kites. You can buy kites that you can hang as banners. You can buy wind devices that you can put in your lawn, or you can buy kites to fly.
Okay.
And then there's the admissions. And of course, during the era of COVID, it sort of scrambled admissions, but you come in, you pay a very modest admission fee.
Very modest.
Very-
We're talking youth $3, adults $5, seniors $4.
Very modest.
That's not modest. That's cheap.
Yeah, it's a very inexpensive way to have a good time. Most, what you would call mainstream art museums, these numbers would be 30, 50, 40.
Right. Oh yeah.
Or
Yeah.
somewhere above 25. Our staff are very diligent, know a lot about kites. We have information, brochures, a collection of kite pins. We have an ADA elevator so that if you want to go upstairs, you just have to walk over here,
And push a button.
push a button. And this is actually a rare treat for older facilities because some don't have this. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Are you? Oh, yes. Oh, I canceled my mistake.
So now we're going upstairs.
We're going upstairs. It's not very far. But when you walk out, you'll understand why it made a good museum.
Okay.
And that became evident when we brought one of our funders from the Murdoch Foundation. The Murdoch Charitable Trust came here, and they were the ones who gave money.
Wow.
And they go, wow! Because it's a big open space.
Oh, that's cool.
Right.
And that means it allows people to see things and enjoy things.
Oh wow. And you've got tons of kites.
Yes. And so this is barrage kite, there would be wires that would hang from this, and it would try to cut down the wings of airplanes.
Cut down the wings of airplanes.
But they would fly this several thousand feet over a destroyer. And the
Really?
wires that are hang down, that are the tether wires, were like extremely tough piano wire. And back in the day, if an airplane flew in it with a wooden spar, wings, things like that, it'd cut the wings off.
Really?
Yeah.
And we're looking at a kite that's probably what?
100 years old.
100 years old.
Yeah.
Probably 10 foot across in the front box.
I'd say more like 14.
Is it that big?
Yeah, more like
14 feet in the front box.
Yeah.
It's got another box in the back that
That's
must
closer
be
to 8 feet.
8 foot.
Yeah.
And then there's a distance in between, which is just a little framework, maybe 9 foot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a big box kite.
Right, exactly, except it's designed to fly at high altitude above a ship. We hung it this way at an angle just to give it a little more life.
Right.
As if a plane had just flown into it or pulled it down, But this represented kites used to protect convoys.
Okay.
So every kite has a little description usually associated with it. And this is on the American and British use of barrage kites. Another good example of kites during World War II, this is a kite with an image of a Messerschmitt on it.
Okay.
And so this reel, that kite, would have been flown off the aft portion, fantail of like a big battleship or a destroyer. And what it did is it taught gunners to track a kite and learn to shoot at it with like a twin 50 cal machine gun, or identify the plane.
Okay.
And so here's an image of a man flying a kite, and this is a Japanese Zero.
Okay.
And he's flying it so the gunners can learn to look at it and identify the plane.
And then be able to, they
Shoot
were
at
used
it.
as a target.
He practiced as a target. And here's an example of soldiers in the field learning to practice flying the kite. Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, really amazing.
This would be a kite that if you post World War II, Korean War, even into the 60s.
And this is just your basic box kite.
This is probably one of the most powerful, simplest kites ever designed.
Okay.
This was designed to carry an aerial to a transmitter that was part of a life raft. And if you were in the water, you could launch the kite, put the antenna up, and then use this waterproof radio transceiver to send out a help message, and they would come and rescue you.
That is cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, and he's got this transmitter. This transmitter's kind of hourglass shaped,
Yes.
but not really narrow. It goes from
They call it a Mae West.
about a Mae West.
Yes.
Okay. Kind of looks like a
Sort of.
life vest.
Yes.
And
Or figure eight.
and how heavy is that? It looks like it'd weigh maybe 10 pounds.
10, 15 pounds. I don't know if the batteries are still in it, but the case and all of the accoutrements are still here.
Right.
So this was originally called the Gibson Girl. Excuse me. The shape was the Gibson Girl. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Mae West is the life raft that they would carry.
Right.
Then we have other kites that were used for various purposes. This is a famous Cody kite. This is a kite that was used to pick up Arctic mail packages. So they would fly these kites to hold a messenger container, and then a plane would fly by and pick up the message.
How close did they have to be to pick up the message?
I would imagine 200 or 300 feet, something like that.
So they
So,
fly.
the plane would probably be 200 or 300 feet above the boat.
Okay.
And this might be 600-700 feet above the boat, and the plane was able to snag the kite with a trailing wire and pull the package in.
Really?
It's sort of crazy.
I was going to say the pilot had to have been one heck of a pilot.
Right.
And these here are all
These are
pre-50s?
50s is a good post World War II.
Post World War II.
Yeah, the Cody kite's before World War II. The Gibson Girls, that's about World War II, post World War II. Obviously, the Messerschmitt's World War II. The barrage kite, I believe this was World War I and World War II, but I think I remember looking at this.
Doesn't really have a date
Yeah,
on it.
I think this was World War II, because the fabric in this is a more modern synthetic fabric.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like an early version of nylon.
Wow, I didn't know that that kites were a military thing.
Yeah. So
This
here
is
we have
pretty
all
cool.
sorts of interesting kites with tags on them that identify their origin. When we first put the kites up, when we repainted them upstairs in the museum, there's a very large samurai figure on an extremely large kite, and this is the braille cord that controls it. So when we put
There's what, 30 cords coming down?
There's not quite that many. I think there's 3 per. 4 per row. 1, 2, 3. There's 20 at least.
Wow, and they all come down into one harness?
One harness, and then that is held by a group of flyers.
By
one
a group.
One person could not fly this.
Wow.
And here's the interesting thing. So when we put these up, these are samurai.
Okay.
It's very important they not be looking at each other.
Oh, really?
Yes, because you know why?
No.
If one samurai looks at another, it's a fight to the death. So we separated them this way so we wouldn't come back in the morning and find them all wound up and torn and shredded because they were angry at each other.
And you've got about 8 of the samurai kites hanging on the wall, all different sizes from about 3 by 3 to this one's probably what, 7 by 10 or
oh my gosh, it's more
9 by 12 or
well,
something.
It's on 10-foot separation, so it's like 9 by, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4.
Probably 9 by 12.
Yeah, 9 by 12, 9 by 14. This was a very tough one.
That's a big kite.
But we also have lots of animal kites. Here's a crane there, large hummingbird here, a big eagle here, a blackbird here. There's parrots, there's owls. There's hawks. Those are really popular. It's an Indonesian, like a giant flying bird, which is very popular.
And most of these bird kites that you've got have a wingspan of like
6 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get the big one here, and that one's got to be 25 feet. It's got a massive wingspan.
Exactly. It's about 22 feet. Look at the one above. This is a flying.
Oh, wow.
This is a flying fish.
Yes, it is.
And the flying fish is huge. And we put it up here 20 years ago. We haven't, it's put it up here, not 20 years ago. We put it up here 15 years ago. And we've got to move it down so we can clean it a little bit. And we want to put it up where it has a better vista of it. It's a really cool kite.
It is.
And then kites can be very long, train kites. This train kite here is, I got to remember where the, sometimes I forget where it starts. Here.
It starts here.
Here. And it goes all the way over there, all the way back around here, all the way over there. And we still have another, I guess another 10 feet of it. So it's probably 70 feet long, 80 feet long. Yeah.
And it's got a head of a triple dragon.
Yes.
It's got a triple dragon for a head.
Yes.
And then coming off of the back, it's got all kinds of discs that are probably 12 to 14 inches round.
Correct.
That make up the train, and they're just all connected by string
and strips of bamboo. These are all strips of bamboo.
And so what part's actually flying?
The whole thing flies.
The whole thing
The
flies.
whole thing flies.
So every little bit of this is catching air in some way in order to keep up
but
there.
Kites like this take a really good team to launch them and fly them. Some of these kites are not one-person fly jobs.
Now, I'm going to have to make a confession. I don't think that there is a kite that's a one-person fly thing. I can get them up in the air about 15 feet, then they do all kinds of squirrel things and then crash. And that's all I've ever been able to do with a kite. I'm intrigued. I love to see them when I'm down on the beach and people are flying them, and it just amazes me because some of those people can get those things up 1,000 feet or something.
Higher.
It seems like
if we have a highest flying kite competition, we have to get a permit from the Federal Aviation Authority.
Are you serious?
So we don't fly them. I don't remember. It's higher than 300 feet, I think. Anything over 300 feet or might be higher. But if we're going to go for a 1,500 foot or 1,800 foot or 2,000 foot record on height, they have to put the net notice to aviators that there's this area there may be a kite way up there. So don't fly here.
Wow, and what is the record for?
Unfortunately, I'll have to call and tell you that. I don't know off the top of my head.
But it's over like 2,000 feet.
I think it's over 2,000 feet. The problem is the higher they get, the heavier the line, and the line is the constraint. You have to have a really highly very strong, very tough line that's very lightweight.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's animal kites.
And we got frog and a turtle and a butterfly.
Dragonfly, butterfly, lobster, another frog, a crab, a flying insect of some sort, a lady who's both like a swan. Oh no, she's riding a swan that's actually a kite.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and a pig flasher.
The pig is hilarious.
So there's a pig standing here with his arms out.
There's 2 elephant kites there. There's a kite that has a scene in it. And so, yeah, kites are really what you enjoy about nature, enjoy about the wind. These are kites that are made out of very rudimentary materials, leaves.
Leaves?
Yes.
Oh,
leaf.
That's a big leaf, but it's just dried.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know, that leaf's probably, 12 inches long and 6 inches wide?
From the tail.
Well, yeah. I'm just talking about the leaf part.
But it has a tail.
It does.
So theoretically, you could fly as a kite. Really? Then if you combine the leaves together, then you make a kite shape. And the basic diamond shape is very common. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's squarer, sometimes the tail is short, sometimes the tail is long. This horse behind you, for example, is a kite that flew. And when you look at it, you go, how can a horse fly? Well, in actuality, it's very light. Air can get inside of it, keep it shape. Probably took a pretty good wind to fly this horse.
And we're talking about a horse that's probably close to life size
pony size
for a 12-hand horse or something.
Yeah, pony size, I would say.
And it looks very horse-like. I don't really see much in the way of area for wind to get in, other than the mouth and the hooves.
There's
is there a big opening underneath
there? Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But it still doesn't look like there's a lot of air surface
So it'd take a pretty good wind to make it fly.
And it is. It's a really cool looking kite. I'd love to see that one fly. Now, do you personally fly a lot of kites?
No, I don't.
Oh, you're like me?
I'm vice president of the museum, and I do things like the budget. And I fix the Roomba. We have a robotic vacuum cleaner. And I'm not it's not that I'm a big kite flyer, but that I work full-time, and I just don't have time to fly kites. But we have a dedicated bunch of people here on the beach that fly kites.
Now, are there certain kind of kites that are easier to fly than others?
Yeah, there are. A single line kite is the easiest.
Like the little ones that you buy at the dime store?
Exactly. They're the easiest to try out. These kites here are basically the ones you're looking at, a single line. Once you get into double line, then you're starting to control the movement of the kite. And so there's a kite there that's a double line kite that looks like a very swept back arrow. And then they go from there to 4-line kites. And then kites, which I can show you downstairs. I gotta turn these lights out here.
Okay.
Kites evolved so much into a basic modern form that's called a power kite. And let me see if I can find it. Actually, the way to show power kites to you is to actually show you downstairs power kites in action.
Okay.
Then it'll make sense to you.
Are you talking about ones that are motorized?
Nope. Nope. They basically are designed to generate enormous pull.
Okay.
That's called the power, and they look like a flying mattress.
Oh.
And because of their basic design, they became the kites of choice for windsurfers.
They kind of got the air chambers in them, the square air chambers or whatever?
Yes.
Okay. I think I've seen some of those.
But the reason we have this is there's a really good reason.
We just came into the room where he's got the big video screen, and you can see the different kite festivals. We've also got all the posters from the 6th annual Kite Festival in 1987. Each one of them has a different artist that has done their artwork, and there's some really cool pictures here, some really cool art that all have kites and are kite oriented.
So here, let's show you some really interesting kites.
Okay. We were up in Hood River, and we were watching guys with kites doing their surfboard or power surfing.
So this is in Scandinavia.
Okay.
And that's see that kite? That's a power kite. It's basically a 3-line kite. It's got a bridle that the man or woman wears around their chest, and it's got a control handle so they can make the kite turn and pull it one way or the other. So watch. Okay, this guy is ice skates on, and he's hanging onto this kite that's pulling him across the ice. He's going, I would estimate, say 20, 25 miles an hour. Yeah, it looks like he's going pretty good. Yeah. He's just moving right along. And the kite is out in front of him and pulling him. So this is the modern use of kites in sport. Okay. It's remarkable. We'll watch this for a few more, a minute maybe, and then I'll show you another use of kites in Formula Kite racing, which is an extremely interesting way to use a kite that most people have never even seen. Kite racing. Right, kite racing. So let's go to that a video, just because it is such an amazing, I think it's this one. Well, I know that they've, used kites for a long time in hang gliding and some of that kind of stuff. Yes, the kites are used in all sorts of, let's see, it's not this one. This is see? Yeah, okay. He's on a hydrofoil surfboard. Yes. Yeah, that's what we were seeing in Hood River. Yes. Those guys, there were lots of them out there, and they had lots of different types of kites, from ones that they just hung on to other ones that they were flying out. And it was amazing how fast they could get up on that little hydrofoil, and then they'd be sitting above the waves, 1.5 or 2 foot, and even though the water was really choppy and stuff, it looked like it was pretty smooth. So his kite's upside down, that's the wing. Okay. His hand's on the wing, and that would be below the water. Right. And it allows them to fly in waves at extreme speeds, and they race each other. That's why they call it Formula Kite. There we go. See, there you go. Yeah, and they're standing on their surfboard 2 foot above the water, being pulled along by a kite. Absolutely. It's an amazing, but this is evolution of kites. And so the kite evolution has happened in the last 2-3 decades. Okay. It's astounding what people are continuing to invent and use kites for. And so we, rather than bring that material to us, we now can go to the site and show people what other kites are doing all over the world. Okay. And is this like an Olympic competition? This would be a class in Europe. I believe this is in Marseille. I'm not 100% sure. But this represents extreme athletes in an extreme sport. Yeah, that guy just came out of the water with his kite pulling him probably 20 feet in the air. Yes. Wow. And so the power kite does a couple things. It transfers his shape into power. That's why he has the loops to put his feet in to hold his position. And then he can steer himself, and he can jump out of water, re-enter the water, and then he can race with his buddies. Wow. That is amazing. Let's see if we can find another one. So do they do much of that kite racing and stuff around here? No, that up the gorge, yes. I was going to show another one. Let's see what was. Kite power is most interesting. So many of these. Let's see. Kite power. Are you talking about generating electricity with kites? Yeah, so here's a short video on generating power, i.e. electrical power using kites of different types. Wow. I never even thought about something like that instead of windmills. See, this is normally how you think of wind generation. Right, is with great big windmills. Right. Or solar. Right. Huh. I would think that the kites would be a lot easier to dispose of than the blades on the... Well, the different technologies, they're more portable. Oh, yeah. They can have a truck that takes the kite to a site, puts the kite up, flies the kite for a day, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, or maybe a year. They can bring it down for maintenance, set it back up. It's not really heavy. It's actually quite light. And this is just one solution. There's many solutions. This is just one company's solution for what they call renewable energy. Right. And how do I know that a windmill
generates through a generator.
These generate through a pattern they fly in the sky, and they often call it a racetrack pattern. And what that means is they can fly and generate power, or they can hold in place and generate power.
Really?
Yeah.
And where's the generator at, or the
generator is in the lightweight units in the kite itself, like little tiny turbines.
And then how do they transfer that?
Down
the wire.
Yeah, down the wire.
Okay, so they're using a wire for the string.
Exactly. They use it for the same purposes.
Huh. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
I have not heard anything about that type of a deal. That kite is huge.
Yeah.
It looks like half a blimp is what it looks like, with the wind turbine in the middle.
Yeah.
And so it's using the kite to hold the turbine
In place, and then it generates power by spinning a smaller turbine.
Right. Now, do they also fill those with helium to keep them
I'm
up
sure
when the
they
wind's
do.
not
I'm
blowing?
sure
It
they
looked
do.
like it could have been held with helium and tethered off. Yeah, that's way cool that they're able to advance the technology that way. Huh. Well, this has been fascinating. I appreciate your time, and hopefully people will show up and take a look at this museum. The historical kites are my favorites.
Yes.
The ones that they were using just pre-war, post-war, during the war.
Yeah.
Those were absolutely cool.
And remember, the creation of synthetic fabrics out of World War II created things like modern versions of nylon,
Right.
that we use, and we think is like ripstop nylon. Well, that resulted in extremely light fabrics that took kites from paper to a true fabric kite, which is very light, or different types of fabrics.
Right.
And so the kite technology is continuing to evolve on the material side, and it's also continuing to evolve on the sports side, and now it's evolving on the power side. But mostly it evolves because people like to fly kites.
Right.
Enjoy that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's way cool. Well, I appreciate your time, Jim. I appreciate you meeting us after hours
No problem.
and running us through here and showing us what all you had. And I usually finish out my podcast by saying the world is full of wonder. People need to get out and explore. Come to Long Beach, watch the kites fly. It's absolutely fascinating. Today when we were down there, they were flying a SpongeBob SquarePants and a great big worm and just all kinds of different shapes, sizes, and everything else. It's really cool to watch somebody that knows what they're doing, and makes me wish that I could figure out how to fly a kite without crashing the doggone thing.
If you lived here, you would be flying kites. I can tell.
And so everybody have an absolutely wonder-filled day.
All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?